Greetings and thanks for joining us again. My name is Carlos Salinas, and I'm the Regional Director for the U.S. Soybean Export Council in the Americas region. A pleasure to be here with you once again. For good order's sake, this presentation is being recorded August 3rd, 2024, and most of the data within this presentation is as of August 2nd, Friday, August 2nd, with some mild exceptions. Before we get started, and as we always do, we like to recognize USEC's growing membership. As you well know, within this membership, we have soybean processors, soybean exporters, seed companies, equipment manufacturers, railroads, surveyors, among many other important stakeholders and funding sources. And we never forget the support and financial contribution that we receive from the U.S. soybean farmer. Without that support, this presentation and many of our other projects would not be possible to execute. So let's get started because we have an extended agenda. I do want to follow up on the soy price evolution since our last report, see what prices have done since then. I do want to as well talk about Chinese open demand for soybeans. I think we're entering that critical window for the U.S., so we need to know what is going on. I want to touch on quality, particularly the soybean allowable storage time. I want to talk about a bulletin that has been put together and is put together every month by the Mato Grosso Institute of Agricultural Economics in Brazil. They do an excellent job with data and provide good information for their audience. I want to touch on hog prices in China, what they have done recently, and we'll close with a brief video of our Americas Cooperators Conference that took place in Bogota, Colombia recently, which many of you have participated. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's talk about the price evolution since our last report. If you may recall, about 2 weeks ago, we said that the seasonality between July 23rd and August 23rd was basically 50-50. There's no seasonality. Prices have gone up and gone down 50% of the time for soybeans during this time window. We also noted that there were certainly some ranges. The upside that we've seen has been as much as 15%, the downside about 9% for the price of soybeans. And today, if we track the evolution of the price of soybeans, which is, again, in percentage terms, it is this thick blue line. These other lines over here are just different years. We know that we are down 4.3% during this time window, certainly within the ranges, not an anomaly. I would say maybe standard volatility. But certainly a bargain, in my opinion, based on what the prices have done over the past 12 months. Very attractive levels indeed. So we'll continue to monitor this and keep you posted. We did also, 2 weeks ago, talk about soybean meal, and soybean meal had a similar seasonality. During this time window, prices were up 45% of the time, down 55% of the time. And we also highlighted some of the ranges where in 2003, meal had gone up as much as 18%, and during 2017 had been down as much as 11%. Where are we at today in soybean meal? Again, this thick blue line is the price of December soybean meal, looking at it in relative terms compared to the past 20 years. And we can see that soybean meal is up 2%, well within the range, really no major surprises or anomalies. Again, still a very good bargain in relationship to where prices have been over the past 12 months. However, I do want to talk about the soybean meal market structure. And again, when we talk about the market structure, we talk about the relationship on the price of soybean meal between the nearby months, which is August for soybean meal, versus a deferred month like December for soybean meal. And when we take a look at that difference, we know the market is inverted. Nearby prices are more expensive than the deferred prices, but that evolution has shifted quite a bit recently. And what this chart aims to do is to show you what that inverse has gone to. Today, we're about close to $40 a short ton. Let's call it 44 a metric ton. But we know that in June, actually, we were almost even money, right? So there has been a significant escalation of this inverse of this relationship, which is a market expression that says we don't have enough nearby soybean meal to supply nearby demand. Therefore, prices are doing what they need to do to ration some of that demand, right? I think it's important to keep in mind in the context of what we can expect in prices moving forward. When we take a look at soybean oil, we have a very similar type of situation where we have an inverse again when we see the price of August soybean oil about 142 points higher compared to the price of soybean oil for December. Again, the market says, I don't have a nearby soybean oil to supply nearby demand. Therefore, prices aren't doing what they have to do to ration that demand. So I think, again, it's good to keep in mind, and as you look at many variables and many aspects of price structures to decide how you move forward, I think you need to keep this on top of mind. When we take a look at soybean oil and soybean oil relative values, I wanted to share with you what prices have done for soybean oil over the past 12 months in relationship to other oils. In this particular case, over the past 12 months, we see that soybean oil prices have dropped 27%, a very good downtick. When we take a look at soybean oil in China and the Dalian Commodity Exchange, they're only down 5%. When we take a look at rapeseed oil in China, in the rapeseed oil exchange, that's only down about 4%. And when we take a look at crude oil, West Texas Intermediate, again, just a reference on the energy component, that's down about 4%. But palm oil, which is probably the mostly traded vegetable oil in the world, that's up 1%. Right? So you can see what the gap has been. Soybean oil, I think it's done a very good job pricing itself for demand. And I think we need to keep this relationship in context as you build opinions on where prices may go in the future. This chart simplifies things a little bit. It compares the price of soybean oil in dollars per metric ton in Chicago versus the Malaysian exchange for the price of palm oil in dollars per metric ton. Now, you can see, I think it's pretty clear that soybean oil stays at a premium most of the time in relationship to palm oil. There may be slight windows where it might come at a discount from exchange to exchange, again, not on the physical side, just exchange to exchange. And when you see that, obviously, you see that soybean oil tends to react. Today, we were coming from a very large gap, but you can see these soybean oil prices again in Chicago are getting very close to palm oil prices, which again, it's another signal that soybean oil in relative terms, again, might be getting to the bottom. If palm oil falls, obviously soybean oil could fall as well, but certainly if palm oil rallies, that kind of tells you where soybean oil might go here and might decide to move the other direction. Again, good information to keep in mind as you build your price strategy. Again, we talked about the structure of soybean meal, soybean oil. Soybeans are made up of those two products. So it's interesting to see that we have at least strong demand, nearby demand for both soybean oil and soybean meal. We'll see what the future brings. Let's talk about Chinese open demand. We are entering that critical time window, and I think it's no surprise that China so far has committed very little, almost no soybeans for the next crop year. And I wanted to share some information with you, which I found kind of interesting. The information comes from a brokerage house that we work with, and they're good friends of ours called AgCom. And what they do is they try to establish what percentage for each particular month the Chinese crusher has covered. And this is what this information shows. If you look at this column right here, potential demand, they outline, okay, China, 105 million metric tons. That number is very close to what other experts like Oil World say that demand for China is. And then they highlight, well, 48% of the month of September has been covered. 9% of October, 8% of November, and nothing for December. And over here, they give you a breakdown of the particular countries. If you take this information and you invert it in a way, and you say, well, what is actually open demand that we have for all origins, September through December, the open demand based on this information would be close to 24 million metric tons. Now, to give you a reference, when you take a look at census data and you say, well, how much has the U.S. shipped between September and December to China during these particular months? And over here, you can see in 2021, we shipped 19.4 million metric tons, 2022, 19.7, and obviously 23 was a very slow year, almost 15 million metric tons, right? So if we want to get to this 19.7 million metric tons, that means that we need to get a market share on average for all those 3 months of about I would say over 80%. And the question is, well, what has the U.S. Market share been for those time windows into China? And we have the following information that I can share with you. And the chart I'm about to show you goes back in history and takes a look at the evolution of market share of U.S. soybeans in the Chinese market. In other words, what our percentage has been. Now, I don't mean to complicate things, but you can see that obviously the number top is 100% right here, right? And you can see that it's very cyclical. We go all the way back to 2010, 2011, 12, 13, all the way to 2023. I have completely blocked out the trade war time window, call it on that late 18, 2019, and early 2020, as the numbers are a bit convoluted. But when you take a look, you see that we have plenty of windows where the market share has reached over 80%. In some cases not, but the majority of them, we have certainly reached 80%, even 90%, I would say even recently here in certainly 2021, we have reached that 90%. So we have the potential to do it. Now, the question is, how long can we maintain that market share? And I think that's the key question that everybody will try to answer. How long will the U.S. export window be to be able to move the beans that we need to move? While there's no answer, I think a lot of it depends on what happens on that early harvest in Brazil, what happens to transportation, the harvest in Mato Grosso, which is the early harvest. Are we going to get beans in January? Maybe exportable more in February. How does the weather behave? How is precipitation, moisture, and quality? So many factors will drive that decision. But I think it is important for you to have the facts. That's what we see, at least based on the information from AgCom, based on this information that we received from Bloomberg, which is, I think, important insight for you to keep in mind as you move forward. Now, if I were to be a buyer of soybeans or soybean meal outside of China, I think knowing what you know today, I think would be wise to step up and maybe lock in some logistics. As we all know, when China comes, it comes in scale, it comes in size. It not only impacts prices, but certainly takes those key logistical windows out of the U.S., where it might put you in a very difficult position to find those ideal shipment windows again. And logistics being a critical component of all this, I think it's important for all buyers outside of China to realize where China is at today and maybe lock in some of that logistical capacity. Let's change subjects completely and let's move over to quality. I think the chart I'm about to share with you is put together by North Dakota State University. I think it is extremely important because it talks about the approximate allowable storage time for soybeans. You know, soybeans don't store forever. Some soybeans store a lot longer than others. And there are two major factors driving that: the moisture content of the soybeans and the grain temperature of the soybeans, which has a lot to do with the relative temperature at harvest and during storage. Again, something to keep in mind, the seasonality of those soybeans. Let's take a look at this. In this case right here, you can see how North Dakota State University has moisture on the y-axis. On the x-axis, we have grain temperature, right? So I think if you're a buyer around the world, if you're in China, you also have to consider the sailing time of soybeans, right? Obviously, if you're shipping soybeans from the Port of Santos to China, you know that the transit times are going to be significantly longer than shipping soybeans, let's say, from the PNW to China, right? So important to keep it in mind. But anyway, looking at this, you can see that as a buyer, you have to keep in mind moisture, because if you got soybeans that are between 12 and 13% moisture, and the temperature of the grain is between 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, well, your capacity to store might be 70, 40 days, at best 125 days, right? And you're going to consume maybe a lot of those days in the transit time, the voyage time of the soybean, not considering the internal storage within the country. Now, when you take a look at other origins that may have 11 to 12% moisture on their soybeans, and the temperature is roughly between 50 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit of the grain, particularly in regions where you have a lot of cold weather during storage, or in some areas almost a freezer, you know you're going to have much more allowable storage, 240 to 300 plus days. Again, based on the data from North Dakota State University, good information to keep in mind as you make your decisions on the origin of soybeans. Let's move to the next subject and change directions a little bit. Let's talk about Brazil. I thought this report from the Mato Grosso Institute of Ag Economics was important to share with you. They always provide outstanding information. I think I congratulate them. They do a very good job informing their audience of facts and the evolution of prices within Brazil. But they provided this information on their latest bulletin. And according to SESEX, which is a platform that allows you to see customs data on imports and exports, the accumulated amount of soy imported by Brazil, again, Brazil importing soybeans, not exporting, importing soybeans in 2024 is already greater than the total for 2022 and 23, right? And where you're talking here is, if you look at the data, is actually June, right? And 2024, between Jan and June, they already imported 665,000 metric tons, when in 23 and 22, the total number for the full year was a lot less. So this leads me to believe that when we take a look at imports in Brazil for 2024, they will likely be larger. Now, why is this happening? And I'm quoting, and I'm taking the translation that I have here. They say this scenario reflects the decrease in the supply of oilseeds in Brazil, as according to CONAB, the estimated production of the 23-24 harvest showed a reduction of about 4.7%, let's say 5% compared to the previous harvest, driven mainly by the states of the Center West and Paraná, right? Again, we're talking about Brazil exporting a great amount of flows to the market, but in this particular case, I think Brazil is shifting gears and beginning to import some soybeans as they run into some regional deficits. Is it a game changer? Maybe not. I think it's something that we need to monitor, and I think to keep it in mind. Changing gears again, let's go to a completely different topic. A while back, I talked a little bit about hog prices in China. I wanted to follow up on that because I think China, again, being the largest pork producer and consumer in the world, I think what happens in hog prices in China tells us a bit what demand may look like moving forward in the country. And I think we have to keep in mind that since, let's say, the low price window of February that we have in 2024, those prices have improved about 18, almost 19%. These prices that I have here are dollarized and they're per metric ton. So it's $2,626 per metric ton of lean hogs. Again, a very good uptick. I think previous experts have outlined and projected those prices were likely to increase. So it's good news for us, and good news for overall demand. So we'll see what this will bring to the table in the next 3 to 4 months. Last but not least, I wanted to share with you a video of our cooperators conference that took place in Bogota, Colombia recently. If you have the time, I think the video is about 3 minutes. I apologize. It's a bit long, but it's a good video. I hope you enjoy it, and we will finish with this video. I thank you for your time, and I wish you a very good week, and hope that I see many of you in San Francisco in our Soy Connects 2024. Let's get this video started for you. Take care.
These opportunities, these kind of conferences like this, are a great opportunity for us to actually get the people together. And one of the things we're doing here at this conference is having U.S. soy farmers here, because I kind of consider our U.S. soy farmers maybe the secret weapon in USEX activities and in our marketing efforts, because they talk about the way they grow the soy on their farms. They talk about their families. They talk about this passion. And I think that really helps connect buyers around the world with U.S. soy, and that's a great way for this elevation of preference to happen.
We have to keep in mind that 9 out of the 15 top soybean meal markets for the U.S. are in Latin America. So by definition, Latin America will play an important role. Our objective is to maximize and optimize the utilization of U.S. Soybean meal in the region, to elevate the preference for U.S. soy, and actually to also guarantee the market access.
I really appreciate the fact that these customers of the U.S. soybean understand quality as well as consistency, and it gives me pride knowing that they appreciate what we are doing back in the United States or in Iowa to produce a quality product.
We're trying to raise more bushels every year through better genetics, better quality inputs and timing of inputs, to raise more yields, because there's only so much land in the United States. So we're trying to do everything we can to do really well by new technologies, but also be sustainable.
And hopefully I'm able to give them a product that they're looking for. Giving the customers what they want, giving them a high quality product is very important to us on the farm.
USEC nos aporta soluciones porque nos ve de forma integral, ya que no solamente se preocupa de la relación comercial entre los productores y nosotros, sino que además se preocupa por esta creación de estas redes de gente, de contactos, por la capacitación y el aprendizaje.
Y a través de los cursos que nos ha brindado el SEC, hemos logrado desarrollar el conocimiento técnico en nuestros colaboradores. Conocimiento técnico en avicultura, porcicultura, acuicultura y fabricación de alimentos balanceados. Y esto nos permite desarrollar nuestros colaboradores, pero también nos permite formar segundos para garantizarle a la organización la continuidad del negocio de manera permanente.
La alianza que tenemos con respecto al Soy Excellence Center va supremamente alineado con el propósito superior de la compañía, que es nutrir a todos desarrollando el campo colombiano.
The American farmer tries to do a good job, and we're eating the same food as what we're selling. And so we're as concerned about our own families as we are selling a quality product that's safe and nutritious for the people around the world that need the protein from the U.S. soy.
Let the consumer, our customers across the world know what we're doing and be proud of what U.S. farmers can accomplish.